You don't need the latest, most expensive computer to organize your photos. But you do need the right basics. This is one of the questions I get asked all the time, usually at the point where someone is already feeling frustrated. Their computer feels slow, it's constantly full, and photo apps don't behave the way they expect them to. And very often, they're worried the answer is going to be expensive. That they're going to be told they need a brand new machine or the most powerful option available, just to deal with their photos. The good news is that's almost never the case. In fact, by the end of this video, I'll show you a simple storage setup that often makes more difference than replacing your computer at all. Why this question matters right now. This question matters more than ever. Not because everyone suddenly needs a new computer, but because the way computers are supported is changing. A lot of machines that still work perfectly well are starting to lose software support. Windows 10 is no longer supported, and many older Intel Macs are reaching the end of their Mac OS updates. That can feel confusing, especially when your computer still turns on and seems to do most things just fine. For most people, the issue isn't that their computer is too slow, and it's definitely not that it's too old to be useful. It's about security, compatibility, and whether your operating system and photo apps can continue to run safely and reliably. The big myth. There is a big myth around photo organizing, that you need a really powerful, expensive computer for it to work properly. Because photos feel technical, people often assume they need far more performance than they actually do. In reality, many people buy far more power than they will ever use, especially if they're not editing professionally, making films, or doing heavy creative work day in, day out. Photo organizing isn't about raw power, it's about whether your computer can handle large libraries sensibly, stay responsive, and work reliably while photos are being imported, sorted, and backed up. But at the same time, photos are more demanding than most people expect, even if you're just organizing. Large photo libraries constantly create previews, build caches, and run background indexing. Duplicate images add unnecessary load, and video files mixed in with the photos both increase storage use and processing demands. What actually matters? The basics. Now, before we talk about whether your computer is good enough, it helps to understand what actually makes a difference when you're organizing photos. This isn't about specific models, brands, or chasing the latest release. It's about a few core things that affect how smoothly your computer handles large photo libraries, whether you're on a Mac or a PC. Once you understand these basics, it becomes much easier to judge whether your computer is fit for purpose, needs a small tweak, or really is due for an upgrade. Storage. Let's start with storage, because this is where most problems begin. Your computer needs enough free space for the system and apps to breathe. When storage is almost full, everything slows down. Apps take longer to open, things freeze, and photo programs become frustrating to use. What often catches people out is how much space apps themselves can take up. Creative apps in particular, things like Adobe's photo and video tools, can use a surprising amount of storage once you factor in extra components, caches, and updates. It's very easy to end up with several large apps installed that you rarely use, all quietly eating away at your available space. And when it comes to storage, not all your photos need to live on your computer itself. In fact, very large photo libraries usually run better when they live on an external hard drive rather than the internal one. Your computer's internal storage is best used for the operating system, your essential apps, and some breathing room for working space. Letting it get completely full, whether that's because of photos, apps, or both, is one of the quickest ways to make a perfectly good computer feel old and slow. Memory, RAM. Next is memory, usually called RAM. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of a computer. The easiest way to think about RAM is your computer's short-term working memory. It's the space your computer uses to juggle everything you're actively doing right now. Open apps, photo previews, background tasks, and all those little processes running behind the scenes. If you don't have enough RAM, your computer starts to struggle to keep up. Photo apps crawl, switching between programs feels sluggish, and everything takes longer than it should. Once you're dealing with large photo libraries, especially 50 to 60,000 photos or more, often mixed with videos, 8 gigabytes of RAM is frequently too tight. The computer ends up constantly shuffling data back and forth, which create delays and frustration, even if everything else seems fine. More RAM doesn't make your computer smarter, but it does make it calmer. Drive type. The last basic need, and one that makes a huge difference, is the type of drive your computer uses. Solid-state drives, often called SSDs, are dramatically faster than older spinning hard drives. If your computer is still using a traditional hard drive, this alone can be the reason for it feeling slow and unresponsive. An SSD allows your computer to access photos, previews, and apps almost instantly. The drive type matters far more than people realize. At this point, some of you will be thinking, okay, I get the theory, but how do I actually sort my digital photos? That's exactly what I help with inside my Photo Mess Success courses. They're focused specifically on digital photo sorting and walk you step by step through getting your photos organized properly, without overwhelm and without the need to be particularly technical. If you want clear guidance, a structure you can follow, and support while you work through it at your own pace, you can find all the details at photomesssuccess.co.uk. Now, let's look at what good enough actually looks like in the real world. Real world examples. What enough actually looks like. Rather than talking about specific models, it's more helpful to think in terms of rough compatibility. For most people, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, a modern computer with around 16 gigabytes of RAM and a solid-state drive is more than capable of handling your photo organizing, even with large libraries and some videos mixed in. In terms of internal storage, somewhere between 512 gigabytes and 1 terabyte is usually plenty for your operating system, apps, and working space. You don't need all of your photos stored internally, and in many cases, it's actually better if they're not. On Windows machines, this might be a mid-range laptop with an SSD or a desktop PC which has the advantage of being upgraded over time. On Macs, especially newer ones, the key decision is getting enough RAM at the start, because that's not something you can change later. The exact brand or model matters far less than having the right balance of RAM, storage type, and breathing room. Mac versus PC. This is often the point where people expect there to be a right answer, Mac or PC. And really, there isn't one. Both Macs and PCs can work very well for photo organizing. What matters far more is how the computer is set up and whether it has the right basics in place. Macs are known for being simple and reliable, but they're also fairly fixed. You need to make good choices at the point of purchase and be comfortable living within Apple's ecosystem, because upgrades later are limited. PCs, especially desktop PCs, tend to offer more flexibility over time. Memory and storage can often be upgraded later, which can be useful if your photo library keeps growing or you need to change. For most people, staying with what you already know makes the most sense. Switching platforms rarely fixes photo problems on its own, and it often adds a new learning curve exactly at the moment when you're trying to reduce your overwhelm. Bonus tip: the smarter storage setup. Now for that bonus tip, the smarter storage setup. And this actually matters more than the computer itself. For most people, the smartest approach is to keep your photo library on an external solid-state drive, usually somewhere between 2 and 4 terabytes. This becomes your main photo drive. It keeps everything fast and responsive and stops your computer's internal storage from constantly filling up. Alongside that, a separate backup drive, usually a large external hard drive, around 4 to 6 terabytes, gives you protection and peace of mind. It's slower, but it's ideal for backups and recovery if something goes wrong. This kind of setup is almost always cheaper, faster, and far more flexible than paying for very large internal storage upgrades. And it means your photo collection can grow without your computer grinding to a halt. And if you've got your computer all set up and want to make sure everything is properly protected, I recommend you watch this little video next, where I'll show you how to back up your photos like a pro. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more photo organizing tips. Have fun rediscovering your memories. I'll see you in my next video.